Tonight, mud madness. Music fans forced to sleep in their cars as Victoria's wild weather strikes again.
The state election rocked by new political turmoil as the campaign enters its final week.
A woman arrested over a stabbing death inside a Sunbury home.
Birthday thrill seekers survive a death-defying helicopter crash.
FIFA's boss under fire for shock comments on the eve of soccer's World Cup.
And the Melbourne golfer toasting 2 holes in one in the same round.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Rebecca Madden and Mike Amor.
Good evening. Wild weather has forced a Geelong music festival to be abandoned, leaving concert-goers stranded in mud chaos.
Tonight, the danger's not over. There are hailstorms happening as we go to air and warnings for damaging winds across Melbourne.
A day on the green quickly became a night stuck in mud.
I swear it's like Titanic.
Crowded House were on stage. Before the weather turned dangerous, thousands of music fans washed out by a heavy downpour and bogged in by thick mud. The event was forced to finish early. Some made the most of the wild conditions. Others had no way to get home.
About 3 o'clock, slept here, and now, I'm out.
As reality set in.
I'll get out of there in a hurry.
The forecast was bad enough that event organisers only allowed 4-wheel drives to park on site, but no one expected it to be this bad. Today, tractors were needed.
Eventful, a journey experience.
Car's still inside. Husband's just going to retrieve it now, so yeah, but they should have, to me, they should
to avoid getting bogged, but for some they were forced to jump out of the way of moving cars.
We were screaming at people, look out, get out of the way, like it was just horrific.
In a statement, event organisers said a day on the green shows are held on outdoor sites that are at the mercy of the weather. The decision to continue with the show was made after extensive consultation with major stakeholders, including emergency services and police.
We had a powwow this morning and said, if you knew yesterday what you know today, would you have still gone? Well, I would have.
In the past 24 hours, SES received more than 500 calls for assistance, from flooding in Altona Meadows to fallen trees in Cranbourne and hail in Eltham.
This has been a result of the high winds that we've seen crossing the state yesterday and still seeing passing the state today.
As the clean-up at Mount Dunedin Estate begins. Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
And Sonia Marinelli joins us now. Sonia, the bad weather's not over yet.
It's definitely not, Beck. After our wild night, strong winds and thunderstorms redeveloped this afternoon. Here in Melbourne, there's been quite a few cells firing up in the outer suburbs with reports of hail right through from Geelong to the western suburbs. We're likely to get more hail in the showers and storms later tonight. Also tonight, most of the state is under a severe weather warning for damaging winds. Peak gusts could reach top speeds of up to 100 kilometres an hour. Authorities are warning that trees are at risk of being uprooted when you factor in both the wind and the soggy ground. And it still doesn't end there. Tomorrow, more showers, storms, gusty winds and hail, along with a cold snap which has the potential to dump snow on the nearby hills around Melbourne, including the Dandenong. So it's all happening on the weather front. I'll have the details, including the latest warnings, for you right after sport. Beck, Mike.
Thank you so much, Son.
The Liberal Party is facing new turmoil in the final week of the election campaign, with 2 candidates under scrutiny for their ultra-conservative views. Matthew Guy is also under attack from his former right-hand man as Labor attempts to drive home its pitch to women.
When he was on camera...
Hi, I'm Timothy Dragon, your local Liberal candidate for Narre North.
His performance was polished.
A Liberal government will invest more than $12.5 million into our local schools.
But leaked audio has revealed what the Liberal Party's Narre North candidate really thinks about Indigenous land rights.
No, I don't agree, because we want this land fair and square. If we're going to go with the Aboriginal, we might as well just abolish everything, get our camping chairs and live in the desert. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Mr Dragon also spoke out against abortion, climate change and
I don't even support the idea of kinder, to be honest.
Like, who anywhere is opposed to kinder? How could you be? Why would you be?
Mr Dragon apologised for his comments after he was approached by a journalist.
If it's disrespectful, I'd ask for an apology. It was disrespectful. I've asked for an apology and we got it.
Yesterday, Mr Guy banned candidate Renee Heath from the Liberal Party room over her controversial religious views. He claimed the party wasn't aware. Today it was revealed 9 senior MPs warned the party and Mr Guy.
I can't remember receiving that, I'm afraid.
Despite being asked about Miss Heath's views for more than a year, the party says it was misled.
So you didn't consider actually looking further into her links to the City Builders Church?
No, because that's not my job.
Former right-hand man Tim Smith also came back to haunt Mr Guy on Twitter. I hadn't wanted to comment on the election, but given the attempt to cancel Renee Heath, I've changed. Guy has no power to do what he's proposed. This is Andrew Thorburn on steroids. This is cultural Marxism, and whilst I'm a member for our party, I'll call this crap out.
Hello, Selena. How are you?
Today, Daniel Andrews hit back at comments from Catherine Cumming, calling for him to be turned into red mist, a speech that's now under police investigation.
I think we're better than this. We're much better than violent extremism. We ought to leave that to the United States.
Labor today pledged more than $500 million for childcare before being quizzed on how they'll pay for it.
No one should be assuming any of that. We will account for and tally up all of our commitments later on in the week in the usual way.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
A woman is under arrest over the stabbing death of a man inside a Sunbury home. Emma O'Sullivan is tracking the case. Emma, the attack happened just before 9 this morning.
Beck, paramedics treated a 61-year-old at the scene, but he couldn't be saved. Police were called to the Blaxland Drive house following reports a man had been stabbed at the property. Detectives were seen running inside. A short time later, they arrested a 41-year-old Sunbury woman. Tonight, she's still in custody, speaking with police. Neighbours told us it's not the first time police have been called to that address. It's a rental property, which was soon to be listed for sale. It's understood the victim and the woman knew each other, and police have said they're not looking for any other suspects. Beck.
Sullivan, thank you.
A couple were lucky to survive after their helicopter hit power lines, spiralling to the ground. They were on their way to the woman's 40th birthday party. The traumatic scenes unfolding in front of their family and friends.
Flying low over homes at Foresters Beach, they'd hoped to arrive to a 40th in style, but those plans and their helicopter were quickly sent into a spin.
Get down, Dad, get down!
The Robinson R44 coming down hard on the Central Coast Highway.
Oh, gosh.
Sending people running and sparks flying as it brought down power lines.
As soon as I saw the wind take the tail of the chopper, I knew it was going down.
It happened outside a packed hotel and function centre at 6 o'clock last night. The chaos afterwards filmed on phones.
Is anyone injured?
Incredibly, all 3 on board crawled out.
The guy flung the door open and tried to get his, wife out.
The pilot and his passengers, a husband and wife, were treated for relatively minor injuries. It was her birthday party they were flying into. She was put on another helicopter and flown to hospital after losing consciousness.
For them to walk away with the injuries that they had, it's a small miracle. Those types of jobs, there's always the fear of explosions.
The chopper had been trying to land in a small hotel car park surrounded by significant obstacles. Trees, power lines, buildings, a main road and people.
Had one attempt at it, flew off, came back.
Investigators from the Australian Transport Safety Bureau will spend the next couple of days gathering evidence from this crash site. They'll be looking for any possible mechanical defects, but also, given these strong winds, whether it was even appropriate for this aircraft to try to land here in the first place.
Can you land there? I don't know. Doesn't look like it, no.
Andrew Denny, 7 News.
The bomb squad has been called into action after reports of a suspicious noise in Ascot Vale. Heavily armed police blocked off an area around Maribyrnong Road and Hurtle Street to conduct safety checks. Police were on scene just before 3 p.m. and declared the area safe shortly after.
The Prime Minister is now back in Canberra following an 8-day tour through Southeast Asia. Anthony Albanese is turning his focus to domestic matters, racing to pass some of his most controversial legislation in time for Christmas.
3 countries, 3 international summits, resetting and reaffirming relations with global heavy hitters.
I'm much more optimistic about the world than I was perhaps 10 days ago.
Now back in Australia, Anthony Albanese will need all the optimism he can muster as Parliament returns for the last sitting fortnight of the year. Labor hoping to celebrate 6 months in office tomorrow by tying up several legislative loose ends.
It's been 6 months packed full of progress, but there is even more progress within reach.
Looking to pass laws to make childcare cheaper and to establish the National Anti-Corruption Commission. Its biggest challenge, though, getting its contentious industrial relations bill through the Senate.
The Prime Minister should halt these extreme industrial relations reforms.
Arguing they'll hurt small businesses and give unions more power.
Create an environment for more strike action, for lower productivity and for job losses.
Labor wants the laws passed before Christmas, but it'll need support from the crossbench and is prepared to extend the parliamentary calendar to give senators more time to consider the bill.
This is the Senate's big chance to get wages moving again and to fix a broken bargaining system.
The opposition will use the last few days of Parliament this year to ramp up its attacks over the rising cost of living, pressuring the government to reveal what it plans to do to stop runaway electricity and gas prices.
Applying new taxes and export controls and all of these measures will only lead to higher prices for consumers.
Labor's preference is regulatory intervention, promising an announcement within weeks. Rob Scott, 7 News.
The FIFA boss has raised eyebrows addressing the criticism levelled at this year's World Cup. In an hour-long rant, he claimed he understood discrimination because he grew up with red hair. It's a bizarre curtain raiser to the World Cup, which kicks off in just a few hours.
Today I feel Qatari. Today I feel Arab. Today I feel African.
An odd opening to what would normally be a standard pre-tournament press conference, and it only got weirder from there.
Today I feel gay. Today I feel disabled.
You didn't say that you feel like a woman. Now,
I forgot. I feel like a woman.
The 52-year-old Swiss national trying to show he understands the potential discrimination facing certain fans in religiously conservative Qatar.
I was bullied because I had red hair and I had these red, how do you call them? Freckles.
It really felt like this was an attempt to brush very legitimate human rights concerns under the carpet.
Those concerns, the same ones pointed out by Socceroos players in a public awareness campaign released last month.
But in Qatar, people are not free to love the person that they choose.
Homosexuality is a crime in Qatar, while thousands of migrant workers have died building World Cup infrastructure, making for some prickly questions for players on media duties.
We as players have absolutely no say in where we play.
Doha is ready, Qatar is ready. It will be the best World Cup ever, of course.
Plenty of fireworks before the real show begins. Evan Batten, 7 News.
America has justified the West's ongoing support for Ukraine, saying failure to help the country could lead to a world of tyranny and turmoil.
Russia has now destroyed half the country's energy infrastructure after a week of aerial bombardment.
Train 102 from Kyiv to the liberated city of Kherson. The first service connecting the two cities in 9 months, enabling these longed-for reunions. But a week since those jubilant scenes when Ukraine took back control of this territory, civilian bodies are still being found and danger remains. This strike on an oil refinery, the Russians still within artillery range. Their missiles have knocked out half Ukraine's energy grid, with temperatures now below freezing. On his first visit to the capital, the British Prime Minister announced another $90 million aid package, including anti-aircraft guns, days after the heaviest airstrikes of the war so far.
And Russia's invasion offers a preview of a possible world of tyranny and turmoil that none of us want to live in. And the tragic and troubling explosion in Poland this week reminded the whole world of the recklessness of Putin's war of choice.
One of the two victims of that explosion in southeastern Poland farewelled today. A man remembered for sheltering Ukrainian refugees in the opening days of the invasion. In London, Sarah Greenodge, 7 News.
Melbourne's Samoan community was out in force along Beach Road last night to cheer on their heroes in the Rugby League World Cup final. But Samoa's magical run to the final ended with Australia far too good. The Kangaroos won 30 points to 10 in front of more than 67,000 fans in Manchester.
Mitcham Mann is the toast of the golfing world tonight after scoring not one but 2 holes in one in the same round. The miracle feat has sport historians reaching for the record books.
A hole-in-one is every golfer's dream, so imagine Tony Mann's delight when he scored 2 in the same round.
It's just nice to savour the moment.
The 53-year-old aced the par 3 third at Long Island National Golf Course in Melbourne South before backing it up on the 9th.
And as I bent down to pick up my tee, I could hear a whole lot of guys yelling and screaming up near the green to tell me that it had gone in the hole.
I have never heard of that happening before, so quite a long shot on that hole and then a wedge, so down the other end of the bag on the 9, so quite a short shot, so 2 very different shots as well.
The feat even earning praise from Australia's best golfer.
Mate, I've struggled to have a hole-in-one myself the last 4 or 5 years. I think I'm on a pretty big drought.
Yesterday's double delight helped his team win the amateur tournament.
Luckily enough, yeah, we won by 1 shot, so if I had missed one of those hole-in-ones, we wouldn't have won the comp.
The chances of 1 hole-in-one in a round are remote, but 2, well, according to the National Hole-in-One Registry, it's around 67 million to 1.
It's only ever happened 3 times on the PGA Tour, so it's incredibly rare.
As for the unofficial rule of buying a round for the clubhouse after a hole-in-one,
they only get 1 shout.
Sarah Jones, 7 News.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, come on, Tony. I reckon it's worth more than 1 shout. Abby Chelmy is here with a look ahead to sport. And Abby, a massive boost for the Socceroos in Qatar.
Well, Mark, we'll tell you why their chances of causing a World Cup boil-over have improved. Also, the Aussie cricketers touched down without one of their stars from last night. We meet footy's next big star, the country kid set to go #1 in the AFL draft.
Mum and Dad are sure to bring me back down to earth.
I didn't think he was that good.
You gotta love it. Plus, why Daniel Ricciardo is a little emotional ahead of tonight's Grand Prix. And we just heard from Cam Smith. He was actually part of a world record attempt. We've got more of that in sport.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Abs. Well, more Medibank customers have had their deeply personal data released onto the dark web. Up next, hackers step up their campaign after demanding $15 million.
Also, a man leaps from a burning building in South Melbourne.
Twitter's new owner makes a call on Donald Trump's return.
And the Steps older Victorian in serious falls.
2 men have been injured fleeing a fire emergency in South Melbourne. Suffered a leg injury after he broke a window and jumped from the burning building. A man in his 40s was also at the Alfred Hospital.
The Russian criminals behind the web. Sarah Jones is live and
from fuel excise is expected to fall in coming years as more and more
been reactivated almost 2 years after it was cancelled. The former US President spoken.
A Melbourne study may have discovered the steps older people need to take to help avoid suffering a serious fall. Researchers hope it will lead to a reduction in Australia's leading cause of injury deaths in seniors.
Putting one foot in front of the other 5,000 times a day could save your life.
It keeps you going. Like, the reason I am still here is because I was fit.
New research from Monash Health shows Australians doing at least 5,000 steps are less likely to have a serious fall or suffer from dementia.
Well, I don't think any of us need to be told that being physically active is a good thing for our health.
Falls are the leading cause of hospitalisation injuries and injury deaths in older Australians. Nearly 250,000 ended up in hospital in 2020. Serious falls also killed around 5,000 seniors.
Walking's a very good way of doing it, mostly because, of course, almost everyone can go walking.
Researchers studied the physical activity of 400 Australians aged 70 and over.
Walking will help with our coordination. That's critically important when we're talking about falls. It'll support our balance. It'll also help with our strengthening our muscles.
There's nothing magic about the 5,000 steps, but the more the better.
Health experts say it's not just about the physical activity, but the social aspects that come with walking that have the most beneficial outcomes for older Australians.
Just going for a walk on your own or on one of those very sad walking machines in a gymnasium is probably not going to help you at all.
I'm on my own. It's just nice to get out. I love it down here, and now that I've come here, I just feel happy.
Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
A wedding has been held at the White House, the first in nearly a decade. US President Joe Biden's granddaughter, Naomi, had the dream location as she wed Peter Neal on the South Lawn. It's only the 19th time in history the White House has hosted a wedding.
Parents are facing tough choices thanks to the cost of living crisis. Up next, why children are being told they can't play sport.
Also, a deadly snowstorm grips the United States.
Some happy news on a Melbourne baby rescued from the Ukraine war zone.
And NASA reveals when people will be living on the moon.
Families are being forced to pull their children out of weekend sport in order to keep up with the cost of living. But parents are being urged to take full advantage of government vouchers before making any drastic decisions.
For these young bowlers and batters, they know how to show the power of the pitch.
Activity, health, fitness, friendships on the sidelines as well for mums and dads.
But for mum Sonia Faulkner, it's the match putting her to the test when it comes to costs.
It does add up and it can be quite expensive. I'm a parent of 4 kids that all play sports.
Financial boundaries holding 2 in 5 parents back from enrolling their children into sport, according to new research. 1 in 2 making sacrifices so their kids can participate.
Choosing to cut back and make packed lunches, for example, for themselves at work so that they could continue their children in sport. Families are choosing to curb other leisure activities, maybe cut a trip to the cinema in favour of sport.
I'm not too surprised to see why households are cutting back on some of the more discretionary type of spending.
But they're the funds that have helped many kick goals.
It developed my social skills, self-confidence and so many other valuable things.
Participating in sport costs parents on average around $970 a year, and with travel and equipment fees also hitting family budgets, government vouchers can be one way to avoid the sidelines.
The great news is that almost every state in Australia, if not every state in Australia, has some form of voucher scheme to support children participating in sport.
A run for your money, well worth it.
I think it's a nice balance between what you get to what you give.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
3 people have been killed as record-breaking snowfall turned large parts of New York white. More than 1.5 meters of snow fell within hours, triggering hundreds of rescues.
In upstate New York, residents went to bed in a blizzard. The skies opened up and delivered an autumn storm for the record books. Chest-high snowfall, more than 1.5 meters in just 24 hours, blanketing the suburbs of Buffalo.
It's a little deep. Oh my God.
With whiteout conditions, drivers were ordered off the roads.
This is a snow storm with potentially deadly consequences.
A warning too late for some. At least 2 people died of heart attacks shoveling snow. Another killed when his snow ploughing vehicle overturned.
I'm so sad by this.
300 people needed to be rescued.
This car stuck here. This is a nurse that was trying to get off work, just trying to get to the hotel here in Hamburg. Absolutely crippling core of the snowband. Whiteout conditions out here.
1 week out from Thanksgiving, the Buffalo Bills were forced to move a home game, their stadium buried. In neighbouring Indiana,
this snowstorm is mayhem.
Look at the shots. You can't even see anything.
Mother Nature proved their toughest opponent.
I've been around a long time, and it's as much as I've seen.
Hardened New Yorkers hunkering down for a white weekend. In the United States, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
An explosion has rocked the Russian city of St Petersburg, sparking a fire which could be seen from kilometres away. It's believed the blast was caused by an erupting gas pipeline. Incredibly, no one was hurt. Only hours earlier, a gas explosion at a block of flats in the country's far east killed at least 9 people, 4 of them children.
NASA believes humans could live on the moon before the end of the decade. The space agency wants to have people stationed on the lunar surface for extended periods of time, and it's looking to create habitats to support them. The launch of the Artemis mission's SLS rocket this week was deemed a historic success.
Baby Elba, the little girl rescued from the war in Ukraine, is making giant steps on her road to recovery.
Her parents risked their lives to bring her to Melbourne. Now they're using their inspiring story to shine a light on the battle facing families with premature babies.
Baby Alba has faced more adversity in her first 9 months than most face in a lifetime.
It's a really tough journey, and it's quite often a surprise. You don't often get warned that you're going to have a preemie baby.
Alba was born 12 weeks premature via a surrogate on the eve of the Ukraine war. Parents Jess and Kevin pulling off a dangerous mission to bring their little girl home.
Alba had a brain bleed at birth, her lungs were collapsed and her organs were underdeveloped because of the prematurity.
Against all odds, little Alba is now fighting fit.
Oh, she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. She's strong. She's got through what she's got through, and we have no doubt that she's going to beat these challenges too.
Jess and Kevin joined other new parents at today's annual Walk for Prems, raising awareness for the 48,000 babies born sick or premature in Australia every year.
It's a lot of trauma, it's quite a shock to the system, and they find themselves all of a sudden in hospital, sometimes for weeks and months with their tiny baby.
This year's event was postponed due to Victoria's flooding crisis, but the extra time allowed another 300 participants to sign up, helping raise more than $500,000.
Our daughter Summer, who was born 6 weeks early, this is our 6th year doing it, so yeah, we do it every year.
Donations to help premature babies and their families can be made online until November 30.
I just want Albert to live a normal life like most parents.
Ellie Wicks, 7 News.
A car's slammed into a restaurant in Melbourne's west. Up next, Truganina families caught up in the chaos.
Also, the type of snack you should be eating to avoid weight gain.
Why men are being targeted in a new cancer campaign.
And Adele's tearful and triumphant return to the stage.
A car has ploughed into a restaurant in Melbourne's west. Emergency crews were called to the Fire Grill and Barbecue restaurant in Truganina late this afternoon. The 22-year-old unlicensed driver is expected to be fined. Her male passenger escaped unharmed. Families were also caught up in the chaos, but no one was seriously injured.
Australian men will be the target of a $10 million Sun Smart campaign after research revealed nearly half don't use sun protection. The ad encourages men to cover up while outdoors this summer.
When we cover things, they last longer.
Hey, Dad!
Same goes for you.
2 in 3 Australians will be diagnosed with skin cancer in their lifetime, with men twice as likely as women to die from melanoma.
Australian researchers say adding the right amount of nuts to your diet can help avoid weight gain. A handful of almonds appears to be one key to curbing your appetite.
In a nutshell, it's the perfect mix of nutrients to keep pesky cravings at bay.
Almonds are high in protein and fibre and unsaturated fat, which contributes to their satiating properties.
In an appetite control study, UniSA researchers found participants who replaced a snack of equal carbohydrates with a handful of almonds reduced their overall food intake by 300 kilojoules a day.
It's a small sustainable change that you can really pop into your everyday diet.
I just eat them because I like them. If they help to lose weight, then that's just a bonus, I guess.
Not convinced, unless it's covered in chocolate.
Experts believe the ease of adding almonds to a diet will mean people can stick to it long term instead of calorie restricting or fasting.
We want people to be able to do small things that don't cause them too much stress, that may just overall have a positive impact on their health.
Now that almonds have proven effective at suppressing the appetite, the next step is to determine whether they can help keep the kilos off after weight loss.
That could potentially help with health in the long term.
Rosie Barnett, 7 News.
Adele has shed tears on stage after finally performing the first night of her Las Vegas residency to a packed house at Caesars Palace. The show was supposed to start in January, but she abruptly called it off because of COVID delays.
Abby Gelmy is back with sport. And Abby, the rotating door continues in the Australian cricket team.
Well, Mike, they'll be without one of their stars for the final one-dayer against England. That's next. Plus, how Josh Hazlewood convinced selectors of a new Aussie captaincy model. The country kid who's gone from Sparky to footy's likely #1 draft pick. The Socceroos boosted by a massive injury blow ahead of their World Cup opener. And Cameron Smith's Guinness World Record attempt as he prepares for the Aussie swing. Welcome back. Rotating captains could be the key to World Cup glory next year. That's according to fast bowler Josh Hazlewood. The Aussies have arrived in Melbourne ahead of Tuesday's clash with England and a potential series clean sweep.
The Aussies touched down in Melbourne without spearhead Mitchell Starc. The paceman will be rested for the final ODI against England following a man-of-the-match performance at the SCG.
Got him! It's an absolute ripper from Mitch Starc.
You know, we didn't really see anyone else swing it last night except him, so at the start there it's lethal and we saw what can happen.
Steve Smith and David Warner also stayed in Sydney, but will join teammates ahead of training tomorrow. Pat Cummins will return to the side after sitting out yesterday, leaving Josh Hazlewood to lead the team to a 72-run win in his first game as ODI skipper.
Yeah, it was exciting first of all, a little bit nerve-wracking, but I had a good time of it.
The Quick is ready to step in again, with Australia set to rotate the captaincy in games Cummins doesn't play.
Pat's obviously not going to play every white ball game, so having that core leadership group of a couple that's, I think it's moving in the right direction.
With the series in the bag, the Aussies are eyeing a clean sweep against the old enemy, a confidence boost ahead of next year's ODI World Cup.
It feels like the ODI team are definitely clicking. Anytime you step on the field for Australia, it's the same feelings from everyone representing your countries.
But there is concern surrounding crowd figures. Just 17,000 fans attended the Aussies clash in Sydney yesterday, and Cricket Australia is predicting a similar number for Tuesday's fixture here at the MCG. The weather could also play a role, with showers forecast to fall. Natalie Anides, 7 News.
The Socceroos' chances of shocking the world have increased ever so slightly. France has been rocked by the withdrawal of one of the best players on the planet just 3 days before their World Cup opener.
Just when things couldn't go worse.
Today I feel gay. Today I feel disabled.
France training, a thigh injury to Karim Benzema, then a tweet that hardly needed translation. Bad news. The world's best player is out of the World Cup altogether. One less threat for the Socceroos to deal with on Wednesday morning.
We've got so much faith in ourselves, so much belief that we could go out there and we could do something.
Clearly Scottish born and raised, Harry Souttar's pledged allegiance in ink, but he doesn't need the tats to stand out from a crowd, back just in time from an ACL tear, a defender and key scoring weapon. Harry's well drilled in the Aussie way by his mum Heather and coach Arnie.
I think it's pretty simple. I think it's just never given up.
From the fans sleeping in shipping containers to a foot-in-mouth FIFA president to the thousands queuing desperately for $20 beers, that's $82 worth right there. The World Cup can't kick off soon enough, with Qatar and Ecuador tonight. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Fresh from his best year on tour, Cameron Smith has his sights set on a breakthrough win at the Australian Open, which gets underway in a fortnight at the Victoria Golf Club.
I'd love to knock that one off. I think for Aussie golfers, professional golfers, it's right at the top of the list.
First up is the Australian PGA in Brisbane, where Smith attempted a world record with his coach for the most golfers taking a single lesson. Now, just over 500 people got tips from the British Open winner, but they were still another 500 short of breaking the record. Daniel Ricciardo admits he will be emotional in his last race for McLaren, starting from 13th in tonight's season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
There's no sure thing that I'll be back on the grid in the future, so I'm just like, there'll be a little part of me which will try to make it a little more special and enjoy it.
He's set to join Red Bull next year as their reserve driver. Max Verstappen is in pole, looking to record an extending 15th win this season. The Melbourne Renegades have turned disruptors in the makeup of the WBBL finals. In a rain-reduced match in Moe, the Gades knocked the Scorchers out of contention with a 6-wicket win. Meanwhile, the Stars' clash with Brisbane was abandoned due to a lightning storm 30 kilometres west in Warragul. In one of this year's potential #1 draft picks is swapping the tools for his AFL dream. Apprentice electrician Aaron Cadman is bolting into contention for the coveted top pick on the back of some help from a Geelong superstar.
A cup of tea with the Cadmans. In just over a week, 18-year-old Aaron could be footy's next #1 pick.
Who keeps your feet on the ground and keeps you focused?
Yeah, whenever I start getting above myself, mum and dad are sure to bring me back down to earth.
A morning spent at the family home in Darley near Bacchus Marsh, and it's easy to see how.
How does that feel, potentially, your son being the top pick in the country?
Yeah, that's pretty surreal, isn't it? I didn't think he was that good.
12 months ago, Cadman was just another midfielder in this year's draft pool, but a 6-centimetre growth spurt and a switch to the forward line changed everything.
This time last year I was a winger, so I'd never really gone forward much in my life.
The standout key forward in the NAB League this season, Cadman was All-Australian and Vic Country captain, all while working as an apprentice electrician for Dad John.
Dad kind of threw me in the deep end, which actually helped me a lot. So, yeah, I like to think myself as an all-right Sparky, I guess.
Well, he's a good worker, yeah. I'm sad to see him go. They're hard to get.
The Giants, who have this year's top selection, made the trip to Western Victoria to meet with Aaron again on Friday.
I try to schedule all my stuff during the middle of the day so I can get a bit of time off work.
I'd always say meeting late in the day or early in the day, no appointments in the middle of the day.
And what happened?
He puts them in the middle of the day, every time.
Managed by Hemisphere's Julian Petrarca, Cadman has already signed with Adidas. The Jeremy Cameron clone has even been mentored by the Cats premiership star.
It's just really cool just to speak to a guy like that, and the way he is, and he's so funny and he's so down to earth, and you could talk to him for hours.
Those days as a Sparky, now a thing of the past.
No, I think it's done. He might do his 2 years and they give him the boot, delist him, and he has to come back for 2 more.
Yeah. I'm just happy that I might be able to play footy for an AFL club and live the dream, I guess.
He's done really well and worked really hard, so I think he deserves it.
Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
How good's John?
Dad. He's going to have no problems keeping his feet on the ground like that, is he?
Sad to see him go. Yeah. Sad to see him go.
Thanks, Abby. Well, we're facing a second night of wild weather. Sonia Marinelli batten down the hatches.
That's right, Mike. Gusty winds, storms, hail and even snow as a cold spell grips the state. All the details up next.
Know the headlines as they break. Know the stories as they happen. With 7news.com.au, know the news now.
Hello again. We are in the grip of a stormy weather cycle and we're not ready to shake it off. just yet. We've got gusty winds and hailstorms which redevelop this afternoon, mainly across western and southern parts of the state. Right now, most of the state at risk of damaging wind gusts. They have been and will continue to gust up to 100 kilometres an hour. That's powerful enough to uproot trees, especially when the ground is so wet. It's been a stormy afternoon around Geelong and Melbourne's outer suburbs. We too under a damaging wind warning tonight. Take care if you are heading out. We're expecting the wind and the showers to ease back later tonight in the city, but you could get a storm out at your place, and with that some squally winds and hail as well. We've already had strong winds around the city. In fact, 4 seasons today with some pockets of sunshine as well, but really not a great day to be out and about. In the city, a Sunday high of 21 degrees, but for all of us, it was feeling a lot colder thanks to that wind chill. The strong westerlies and that cloud is keeping the temperature statewide down today. It was a good 3 to 7 degrees below November standards. And it's all thanks to the second in a pair of cold fronts moving through today, which is sending stormy weather mainly through the west and the south. We're not done yet with cold, showery weather continuing for at least the next couple of days. Tomorrow, that cold kicks in. Temperatures dive even further. Snow down to 700 metres, but looking ahead, and by midweek, high pressure takes over again. That is a good thing. It's going to deliver a couple of nice days, dry, warm and settled. So if you don't like the cold, best to hibernate at least tomorrow. It does get warmer later this week through the city, and we'll get a couple of dry days too in between the showers. Pollen levels in Melbourne low tomorrow, increasing to moderate by Tuesday. OK, let's head to the forecast now. And if you are chasing warmer weather, Brisbane or Perth, that's where you'll need to be tomorrow as a late November chill grips the southeast, a top of just 13 in Canberra and also in Hobart. Back home, just like today, those strong winds and thunderstorms redevelop again tomorrow. Most of the state remains at risk of damaging wind gusts, especially with those showers or storms. It could get quite squally. The showers scattering over the state with hail, but the risk of the storms falling mostly on and south of the Divide. Closer in, we're starting Monday, mostly dry, but the showers and the strong winds get going really early. And by the afternoon and evening, we're expecting another gusty round of storms. Just like today, potential for small hail as well. In the city, a Monday high of just 14 degrees, windy with increasing showers and the risk of hail and storms later. It's not a really good start to the week. There will be more showers on Tuesday, a top of 18 degrees, 19 on Wednesday with a possible shower. All clears out by Thursday, 21, warming to 26 on Friday. Both days looking really good. The weekend stays warm, but the showers do return. But take care tonight and tomorrow as we head for just 14 degrees here in the city, just 10 days out from the start of summer. Would you believe it?
Hope it improves. Thanks, Son. And that's 7 News for this Sunday evening. We'll have updates throughout the night.
For now, from the 7 News team, good night.